Hi there, here is Danny. Thank you so much for being involved in so many discussions under my episodes, especially yesterday's one now about expensive bikes, are they worth it? I'm sure we did touch their very important topic, which is when we think about buying bike, the most important thing for us seems to be the carbon versus alloy stuff or components or weight or how much money I should spend and so on. And we miss the most important factor, which is the bike's geometry. It is not the components but the geometry that makes us feel on the bike lousy, good or excellent. It is the geometry of the bike that allows us to put more power into pedals or spend so many hours, go through so many miles and just feel great. So if you were to remember just one thing from this episode, it is the geometry is much more important than how much money you put into your bike. All right? So today we're gonna look at some basics, just the basics, because we don't need more, from two perspectives, bike handling and our position on the bike. These two are linked together for sure, but we're gonna take a look at those from these two perspectives. And first off, I'm gonna try to answer the question I'm sure you were gonna ask me after watching this episode, and it is: Danny, after watching your episode, what would be the perfect head tube angle for me if I'm gonna be racing? What would be the perfect rear end length if I'm gonna be touring? There is no answer to that question, but I have here two bikes for a reason. What you will learn in this episode is to compare different bikes, and then you will know exactly how the bike will handle, where you can put more weight, where you can be more aero and put more power perhaps on the bike. So let's start. First off, bike handling, and let's talk about the front end first. Here we have handlebars, the head tube of our frame. In the head tube there is the steering tube from our fork and the fork. We are using handlebars and the fork mostly for turning, because we also just lean the bike, but we do turn like that. And here is the first thing you want to compare between different bikes: the head tube angle. For example, on this Super 6, both are racing bikes, but the Rose Xeon is the aero racing bike. So here we have 71.1 head tube angle, and there we have 71.25. How should we understand that? Easy. Slacker head tube angle. This is super slack. That means very stable bike, but harder steering. So you're gonna have to use more power in terms for the steering, but it's gonna be very stable, especially at the high speed. You're gonna feel just safe. Now, steep one, very nimble, very playful, very easy to steer, but can be nervous, especially if you put more weight on the front wheel, or you have the aero wheels and there is some wind there. So you're gonna remember that. How to memorize that? Just think about those guys riding on their lovely Harley Davidson or some kind of chopper motorcycles. They have really slack angle in the front, long wheelbase, very stable bike, because that's what they do. They just go for hundreds or thousands of miles and want to have stable bike, not super bike, very fast handling. Now there is more to that, not only the head tube angle, but also the forks offset or rake, and then forks trail, which is the shape of the fork. But it is the combination of fork trail, fork offset and head tube angle that make the bike more nimble or more stable. I would not really bother with that. Just compare head tube angles, and if there is significant difference, you will know the bike will be more nimble, more stable. All right? Now let's go to the rear end, or first a whole bike. The wheelbase is something that we want to be interested to as well. That's the distance between the axles of our wheels. So the rear axle, the front axle, here is the 100 centimeters. 1 centimeters more for the Rose bike. Once more, the longer the bike in general, the stable it will be and less nimble, less playful. Now we have the rear end, which is the length of the rear triangle, or the chain stays here. On this bike it's, for example, 41 centimeters. The longer it is, same thing, the more stable it will be, the less playful, the harder it will be to do the wheelie, for example, right on the rear wheel only. But also for those of you who use the bike for commuting or traveling, think about this. If you have the adapters for the racks on your bike, these don't have it because these are racing bikes, but road bikes can have it as well, like endurance bikes or just road traveling bikes. You want to put some luggage here, right? So the longer rear end is, the more space you're gonna have between not even your pedals, but your shoes on the pedals and your luggage. That's why you want to have your rear end longer. And you're gonna see significant differences between different models, so that's something that's really good to just bear in mind when you choose the bike for commuting, or just you want to have to put some load at the rear end of your bike. Okay, so these are the basics of bike handling. Now let's go to the position on our bike. And what's important here is the seat tube angle. All right, on this Cannondale Super 6 it is 73.5, so this is the seat tube angle. All right, on the Rose it's 74, so a bit steeper. Why is it steeper? Because Rose is more aero-oriented bike, puts us a little bit to the front on just over the handlebars. Now if this was a triathlon bike, let's say Cannondale Slice, then this angle would be even steeper. It would be 79 degrees. All right, and I'm showing you that just to tell you that measuring or comparing only the length of the top tube is pointless between different bikes, because if this angle changes, the length of the top tube also changes, but the size of the bike can be the same and it can still fit me. So do not compare the top tube length, but look at, for example, the head tube angle and the seat tube angle. These are the factors we are really interested in. Okay, now the steeper this angle is, the more to the front of our bike we are being put, the more weight we put on the front wheel. And for example, if you want to put these aero extensions on your handlebars, then you lean even more and put even more weight on the front wheel. The bike can do crazy things, especially on the descents, so just know that. You can learn to handle that, but if you don't want to do that, or it's your first road bike, you want to feel comfy, just know that the more you are being put to the front, the more weight you have on the front bike, on the front wheel, especially with the deep section rims and the wind. It can be a tricky thing. Now the last thing is two factors you want to always look at, and it's reach and stack. I'm gonna go back here. Oops. So not the length of the top tube, but the reach and stack. Reach means how far we're gonna have to reach to the handlebars, and stack how low or how high the handlebar will be. The combination of the two will put us into more comfy position or more aero and perhaps powerful position on the bike. What is reach and what is stack? We need 2 points at the top of our head tube, just here in the middle, and the spindle of our bottom bracket. And now, when we have drawn the vertical line through the BB and through the top of our head tube, that's our reach, because that means how long from my pedals and my saddle over the pedals, let's say, to the handlebars I'm gonna reach. Okay, we can change it a little bit with the stem, with the angle of the stem and the length of it, but this is the geometry of the frame, so we want to know this limitation. So this will be the reach, and stack, that's same 2 points, but we have horizontal lines, so one here and one, let's say, here, and now the distance between these 2 lines will be the stack of the bike, right? The aero bike should normally have lower stack because we want to be low aero, and longer reach. It is always combination of these two, but just take a look at those always. Now, the head tube length, yeah, the longer the head tube is, the more comfy the bike usually is, but it also depends on the size of the bike. But if you are comparing the stack and reach between, let's say, this Super 6 and this Xeon bike, you will always know what will be your actual position on the bicycle. And that's it. These are the basics, very important for us. You want to feel on the bike great, doesn't matter, it can cost you $600 and be steel bike, it can cost you $15,000 and be carbon bike. You want to feel well. So this is my take on it. Let me know which factors seem to be the most important for you, or maybe you've been comparing some models and have chosen one and it really fits you. I'm always curious what you think about it. Thank you so much for being with me, and I'm gonna see you on Saturday. Bye bye.